get your attention, please. Hi guys, it's time for a few speeches now. Hope everyone enjoyed the day as well. First up we've got Laura and Tara. They've been Sheby's best friends since circa 2007. They've been on 5 holidays together to Barcelona. Laura's from New Zealand and Tara is from LA, so they've come a long way, especially, so come on guys.
Our friendship with Sheby is defined by many of the firsts that we have experienced together over the years. We enjoyed attending our first festival together, complaining about our first post-uni jobs, gossiping about our first, and in Sheby's case, last boyfriends. We were there when Sheby got her first passport, and when she got on her first plane. We attempted to give her her first swimming lessons on her first overseas holiday to Barcelona. Didn't go very well at all and was still terrified whenever she entered a body of water.
Although we now live in 3 opposite corners of the world, our friendship with each other is as important, valued and strong as ever. Sheby has been an incredible, loyal and supportive friend to us over the years, and we are both so excited to be here by her side on the most important of all of the firsts, the first day of her marriage to Jon.
Cheesy. When we were given the task of writing this speech, Sheby suggested that we focus on 2 things: how they met and why they're so good for each other. We knew the second point was going to be easy, but when we got our heads together and tried to write down just how these 2 met, we realised the beginnings of their love story were not all that clear to us. We put this down to the fact that when they met, Tara and I were freshers in uni, had just discovered the joys of binge drinking. Those years were a happy blur of Glen's vodka, night buses, and the golden heyday of the indie disco. So we decided to do some research, and we figured we should speak to the 2 people involved, the couple themselves. What we quickly realised is they must have been blinded by love. Their stories didn't quite match up either, and their memories were a bit blurry too. Here are our findings.
Our first question for the happy couple was, of course, where and when did you meet for the first time? Despite not being able to pinpoint a particular day, week, month, or even year, both Sheby and Jon agreed that it was most probably at New Slang, or Bacchus, 2 indie club nights here in Kingston, where Jon would DJ and Sheby would want to dance, but only to a very specific set of songs. Jon describes his first impressions of Sheby as an interesting woman who plays by her own rules and sees the world in a different way, which I'm sure everyone here would agree is an excellent assessment. While Sheby, on the other hand, informs us her first impression of Jon was not great.
Both parties agree it was Sheby who did most of the talking, with Jon only realising years later that it wasn't a coincidence how often the pair seemed to find themselves in the same room at the same time. We also asked the new Mr. and Mrs. to describe their first date. Jon claimed this took place at the indie nightclub White Heat, a date which only took place after Sheby shouted at me for not hanging out together, and the romantic evening ended with Jon driving an annoyingly loud Sheby and third wheel Chloe home in his car.
After further consideration, both Sheby and Jon agreed that their first proper date took place further afield at Pizza Express in Isha. Sheby correctly guessed that Jon chose this location so we wouldn't bump into anyone he knew. And Jon went on to say that after food and some napkin origami, they enjoyed a cheeky kiss in the car park of the Civic Centre. Dreamy. Although we are still a bit uncertain about the exact moment Sheby and Jon met, it is undeniable that these 2 are meant to be together.
When we first asked Jon and Sheby what attracted them to each other, Jon told us she was real and fun, but mostly interesting, and I won't ever get bored of her and the way she sees things. Sheby was attracted to the way Jon talked about the things he was interested in so excitedly, making her want to be part of whatever it was too. Jon and Sheby share a passion for music, friends and family. They respect each other's differences and give each other the space they need to be independent and creative people.
They've stood by each other through the toughest of times and have proved their partnership is solid gold. We are so excited to see what lies in their future, and we can't wait to find out where they will finally go on a proper holiday together. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to share these tales with you all, and even though the beginning of this love story may be somewhat hazy, we're sure the memories Sheby and Jon make today will last a lifetime. Please join us in a toast to the newlyweds. To Sheby and Jon.
Thanks, girls, that was lovely. Thanks for coming all that way as well, thank you. Next up we have Gary. So, Gary's been friends with Jon since they were, was it 11 years old? 11 years old. They live together. They still go to watch the football together every week. Is it every week? You made the website for the Banquet Records in as well?
Jess keeps on about it.
Oh, okay. And Jon was actually the best man at Gary's wedding, 2010.
Good research. Hello, my name is Gary and I'm part of the best gang. Now, Sheby and Jon have asked that this doesn't become like your traditional best man speech. So there are some things that I'm not going to be able to mention. I'm certainly not going to mention how often Jon washed his hair when he was at university or anything like that. And I'm definitely not going to mention what happened one night when he was out skating in Tolworth with Jamesy. But James is over there. If you want to have a word after, I'm sure he'll fill you in. I met Jon when we both started at secondary school. And one of the things I really remember about that time was that he had a paper round at a newsagent's that was called Whitford's. And what he was totally devoted to it. And what he really wanted to do when he grew up was buy Whitfords. And he mentioned it all the time. He was totally serious about it in Chester it is. In the end, I had to just sit him down and say, why would you want to buy a shop that's in the wrong part of town, that sells something that used to be popular in the 60s and 70s, and everyone can download it when it's on the internet now? Luckily you saw sense and never went through that, so that's fine. Before I go any further, I have to pass on a quick message from someone who isn't here today. Jon and I used to play in the same football team, who was managed by my dad, and he's just sent a quick message. It's actually for Sheby. It says, I hope everything goes really well today. I wish you the best of luck with Jon. I found him to be useless in most positions, but wishing you all the best for tonight. Football is something that's been a real cornerstone of Jon's and my friendship, as we've mentioned. We both still follow Kingston and get to as many games as our busy lives allow us to. Over the years, we've spent a huge amount of time following them. There's no doubt that the highlight of that time has to be full-time, when it's time to go home. There's a few football boys here today. Can you give us a cheer? You'll notice, in typical non-league fashion, they've spread themselves out, so it looks like there's more of them than we think there are. I think, of course, politics, also deserve a mention. It is just over 4 years ago, I think, since Jon persuaded 238 people to vote for him when he stood as an independent for an election to Kingston. 3 votes behind UKIP, and in 6th place out of 7. Fortunately, as you'll know, a few months after that, he jumped on the Lib Dems bandwagon, stood again, and then he got over 1,500 votes, which is pretty impressive. That reminds me about another message, actually, that I've got. It's from the leader of the opposition, Kevin Davis. He couldn't be here today, unfortunately, but he sent a quick message. Just get it. It just says, he's a barbarian. I think he needs to be a bit more grown up. Politics has actually made it into the wedding planning today, I'm told. You know how some weddings you go to, the bride and groom try to do a bit of matchmaking between some single people so they're sitting next to each other? I'm told that at this wedding, on each table, there's one swing voter and one card-carrying Lib Dem member. So you've got to see if you can work it out. There's a few councillors in the room as well. Can you give us a wave? There you go. Right, now everyone else, you know where to go to moan about the bins and the cycle lanes. It's fine, they're never off duty, they won't mind. I should, of course, mention Sheby. As most of you all know, she really is a really super person. It's funny how history repeats itself, though, isn't it? 34 years ago, she was going to bed with a dummy. Look where we are now. In all seriousness, they are absolutely fantastic together. Personally, I thought they'd been fantastic together for years, but we finally got here today. So I truly am honoured to be part of today and to count them both as my friends. I can't do a toast to everyone because we have so many toasts because there's so many people speaking. So I would just like to wish the very best to Sheby and Jon for their future.
Thanks, Gary, that was awesome. We've got Chris up next. I can't see him. Where is he? There he is. Chris works, Sheby refers to him as her work boyfriend. Boyfriend or husband? Husband, sorry. A little bit more serious. He's best known for his flamboyant shirts. And for stealing Sheby's jokes as well, but delivering them a bit better. But take it away.
Wow. Goodness me. Say a few words, she said. Fucking room full of people. Oh, sorry, children present. So I did actually initially struggle with what to write. So I thought I'd sing a song. No, I didn't. I'm pretty sure my wife's heart just skipped a beat. I will be brief. I have two pieces of marital advice to offer, but first I've chosen 5 endearing qualities of Sheby's that can contribute to our wonderful friendship. Firstly, number 1 is what friendship means to her. With Sheby, friendship is not handed out to just anyone. It is hard-earned, making it all the more valuable and rewarding, much like being a member of an exclusive club, albeit sometimes an expensive club. But she doesn't suffer fools gladly. It takes a steely resolve not to pander to people, to hold your course and to compromise your integrity. Sheby manages this with aplomb time and again. Number 3, the dramatic Sheby eye roll. I think we've all been witness to this event. When Sheby releases the full force of her eye roll, cities tremble, planets shift on their axis, memes are spontaneously created. Many, many have withered before her contemptuous gaze. Number 4, Sheby's habit of telling a story that is overly long and doesn't really go anywhere. Each rambling tale starts in a similar vein, often about something exciting that didn't quite happen, or somewhere exciting that she didn't quite get to. Invariably, they all end the same way. After several minutes of monologue, she suddenly stops and announces, "Well, that's it." Usually to the surprise of her audience, who are sure this was actually going to go somewhere. You're often left feeling like you've watched all but the last episode of a TV miniseries. Number 5, and finally, her courage and moral compass. Ever since I've known Sheby, when difficult decisions need to be made, she will not shy away, but puts herself front and centre. Where others may take the path of least resistance, Sheby will take the harder path, even if it comes at a cost or personal sacrifice. And my 2 pieces of advice. Firstly, savor today together. I know I've already mentioned this. These people, these experiences, take quiet moments with each other to breathe it all in, because it will go past in a heartbeat, as I'm sure you already realise. And secondly, often people say, don't sweat the small stuff. I say in marriage, do sweat the small stuff. Every little moment is important. Every conversation, every look, every hug, every unsaid word, every shared experience. These thousands and thousands of tiny little moments, when done with love and integrity, build strong relationships and stronger marriages. Don't take them for granted. Treasure their value as much as you treasure each other.
Thanks, Chris. I've got goosebumps. Jane, where's Jane? There we go. This is John Tolley's friend. She's been doing gigs before John Tolley and still works Banker Records 20 years on. John describes her as the salt of his earth.
Hello everyone, my name's Jane and in many ways I am the best woman on earth. I've known John Tolley since 1995, when me and our friend Mark were working at the record shop in Kingston. It was called Beggar's Banquet back then, and John was a customer, for ages known only as that lad who likes perfume. That's the obscure 90s hip-hop band, rather than Eau de Toilette. He started coming to the events we put on in Kingston. Club night, shows, bands playing in the shop, and to see some of the bands we managed. From the beginning, John was a doer, always ready to pitch in and help with ridiculous things, until he went off to university. John was back in Kingston in 2000, when one of the bands we managed has somehow become quite popular as being signed to a big record label. Our friend Mark was leaving the shop, and John was the obvious candidate to take over, but he wasn't initially keen due to his burgeoning career in lighting installation. It was my job to guilt trip him into taking it, by telling him it was his public duty to the people of Kingston. Lighting installation's loss was Kingston's gain. A series of events over the next few years led to John taking over the shop in 2005, by which point the typically brief career of the band I was managing had peaked and was petering out. John gave me a job and a home when I had neither, and as I've told him many times, I'll be forever grateful. He's not a saint though. Early on in this arrangement, he did say, "I don't know why I gave you a job, but at least I don't have to pay a cleaner." Hashtag me too. Banquet is by some distance the thing I'm most proud of having done with my life, and it's largely due to my working relationship with John. He can be infuriating and inspiring in equal measure, but as a collaborator he's incomparable. When we pull off something which initially seems impossible and can say we've done it ourselves, there's no other working experience that could possibly compete. And it's a team effort. Big up the Banquet staff, they're amazing. Where else would your job involve? Cat rescue, awards for the best cardboard box, putting on some of the biggest bands in the world, and acting as election agent when you've badgered your boss into running for the council as an independent. Once again I told him it was his public duty to the people of Kingston. We were flatmates above the shop at Eden Street for 6.5 years. I'd like to be able to tell you when Sheby moved in, but John didn't actually tell me she had. Or do any of the usual things like introducing us. To my regret, Sheby and I have only really had one extended conversation. But what a conversation, which coincidentally took place at a wedding. My sister-in-law had recently been diagnosed with a life-threatening illness and was in an induced coma. Sheby said some incredibly wise, insightful things, which made a huge difference to how I got through that period, and they've really stayed with me. You're a special human. John Tolley is maddening, unknowable, but above all else, life-enhancing. Sheby is modest, empathetic, and hugely emotionally intelligent. The change in John since they've been together is significant, especially so in the last few years when they've had a place of their own away from the shop. John often says it can be difficult to know if your friends are your friends when you're paying so many of them to work for you. So just to be clear, John, I'm proud to be your friend. I'm massively touched to have been asked to do this today and to be part of this beautiful, happy occasion. But don't stop paying me.
Thanks, Jane. Next up, we've got my brother Kamal, or Bassem as we call him. He's our oldest brother. He always used to pick up Sheby from boarding school. Sheby remembers sneaking to his room, listening to his tunes, and playing on his Commodore as well.
Put me on the spot here. So, I'm Kamal, as my brother's just here is. I'm standing in for my dad, unfortunately who's passed away a couple of years ago. It's my great pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to come here and have this amazing venue on such a glorious day to celebrate the marriage between John and my younger sister, Sheby Cat, known as Sheby. You look amazing. Yeah. And John, you're not too far behind either. several times I have likened him to Joe Manganiello from Magic Mike. And he did say he was going to do the petrol station scene later. Are you?
We'll see how it goes.
Okay. So, we're grateful for all of you who are coming from afar. Some people have come from New Zealand, LA. Anyone? Yeah. Okay, and others from Dubai. Dubai, and from Chatham. Okay, and of course, Northampton, where I'm from. Okay, so I'm finding it a great privilege that Shib's asked me to speak on behalf of my dad, who isn't unfortunately here, and John, I'm still waiting for the permission to ask to marry. And also, you do need to provide a dowry. Affectionately known as Happy Slappy. That's Sheby, not you, John. Right. Sheby's been to boarding school, which has been mentioned before, and we've trained her well. You don't mess with this in the family, as you will find out. Anyone who didn't eat their tea time, that's Darla mainly, and wanting to watch Arthur, would get into big trouble. She's an awesome all-round sister, and being a sister to 13 of us, she's definitely my favourite 9 sisters. That's not an easy feat. Well, I've got 4 brothers. Right, she's definitely the cool sister of the family. She'll rescue you from the water slide if you get stuck, which is surprising because Bangladeshis should be okay with water, but some of them seem to fear water. She'll also lend you her ID on a night out so you can hang out with your crush. Who was that? Yeah. Also walk 2 hours in the wrong direction on a holiday. Who was that? Just because she wanted to be in charge. Needless to say, when she came back from boarding school, she applied for a job at the girls' school. Can you remember that? Yeah, the boarding school. From boarding school, you applied for the girls' school, and you haven't quite learned how to use the search and replace yet. Can you remember? So she applied for a job at the girls' school, telling them that she really wanted to look forward to working at Dustin School. Can you remember that? No. But she went to Dustin School, and she was really good, and she was much cooler than some of us who went there. She, what was it? Also, my favourite, being one of my favourite 9 sisters. She was the only one who understands Rickrolling, but I think she played the best Rickroll on me because she actually got me a signed record from Rick Astley himself when she turned up to Banford Records, which I really appreciate. Thank you. Is he coming again? Okay, she also made sure our dad was up to date with technology, getting him an iPhone and making him a member of the iPhone gang. We really appreciated it, discussing with him about the assistive technology that it had, what a great phone it was, what a great value for money it is. Do you work for Apple by any chance? Are you an Apple genius yet? She is the perfect young lady who I'm very proud to have as a sister, and I'm sure John Tully will be equally as proud to call his wife. She's kind, fair, smart, loyal, and totally dependable, and friendly and fun-loving. All the qualities that we cherish, and I'm sure my dad would have been proud to have. John, I'm delighted to bring you on board onto the Mia clan. And thank you to your mum for being such a fine and distinguished gentleman. Anyway, as it's customary, I'm giving you some advice, my 2 pence worth. A man who gives in when he's wrong is very wise, and a man who gives in when he's right is married. So, everyone, please, it is my great pleasure to propose a toast to John and Sheby. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, thanks myself. Next up, annoying loudmouth. That's how John described you. We have the lovely Oscar. You have to be annoying and loudmouth. He's the main man at the Hippodrome and the works for the last decade. So.
Thank you. Excuse me, I've got to get a speech out. Right, thank you for that introduction. John, right. John, I love you to pieces, right. Anyway, I'm Oscar, like I said. So I've known John for over 13 years now, right? And from the moment we met, we hit it off straight away, despite us being very different people, right? In every aspect, right? In fact, I nicknamed him the Hippie, a name that has stuck, so much so that at Prism, on the gig nights he does, they have a storeroom. It's actually called the Hippie Room, right? And we used to have a hippie room back at the Hippodrome as well. John is one of a kind. I've never met such a hard-working, loyal and kind person. I'm now making him sound like a Labrador. He is one of the good guys and helped me so much. John knows I would do absolutely anything for him. Like stand here and give a speech when I hate public speaking, as he knows. Sheby is such an amazingly awesome person, and I know she makes him so very happy. And I know he will always do what he can to be the best husband, because what they have is truly special. That wasn't a deliberate pause there. It was to change the paper. I'm only doing big text, so I didn't wear my glasses. Vanity, you know. I'm so impressed by John. Not only does he have a successful business with a club and music nights and record shop, but also, as you know, he's a fully committed local councillor. He will always fight for what is right and his community, and standing up for the underdog like the hero that he is. Anyone who is friends with John or who works with John is classed as his family. I'm very picky about the company I keep, so I have a lot of acquaintances and very few friends. But Sheby and Jon, you're at the top of my list of trusted friends, and I would like to thank you for that. All that you've done for me, even keeping my surprise wedding a secret for me. Sheby and Jon, you have such busy lives, yet you both managed to pull off such an amazing day, and I'm glad to spend this most special of days with you. John, from one husband to another, I'll give you some simple advice. It's from a song, so you get it. All you need is love. So raise your glasses again for Sheby and Jon.
Now we've got the lovely Moira, John's mum and personal hero. She's the only one who calls him John Boy. Here we go.
Probably the only person who's really known him for a very long time. I reckon I could beat a lot of him. Now, this is the scariest part of the day for Johnson. That's his proper name. Because he's got no idea of what I'm going to say. Now, I'm not going to tell any embarrassing teenage stories, because there's other people in the room who could do that for me. Today, he's called the bridegroom. Usually, he's called Tolly, John Tolly. I won't tell you what his teachers called him, or what the local vicar called him. He's that skateboarder, and his nieces call him Uncle Johnny. There's a Councillor Tolly, don't think you've ever heard of him, but there is a Councillor Tolly. Sometimes it's JT, And as I expect lots of you have seen, he's Kingston's Music Man on the local magazine. And sometimes he's just called Banquet. I don't know what Sheby calls him when they're on their own. I'm not going to ask him. But as somebody's already said, he's always been John Boy to me. And if you ever are old enough to remember the Whartons, it might ring a bell. But of course, when he's been naughty, he was called Jonathan. Remember that sound? Now, he's also a very confident speaker. We've heard him on the radio, where he's been interviewed, and if you've heard him at council meetings, he can really focus. Now, I once did some supply teaching, and one day I had a call from his school, blown me at his class, and I had to take him up to school, leave him in the playground, and he said, "Goodbye, Mummy." I said, "Goodbye, John Boy." And by the time I got to the classroom, it was Mrs. Tolley the whole day. And then I went out into the playground to take him home, and he came out, "Mummy, I'll tell you all about my day, about this." And I heard all about what I'd done. In other words, I hadn't talked very well. Now, we've always got on well, I think we can say that. Better. But we live very different lifestyles. But we don't belittle each other, we don't make fun of each other. And I've been very, very proud as a mum of what he has achieved in this world. Not only Banquet, there's the political side, there's the social side, and Sheby's got a good one there. Thank you for all coming today. It's been lovely speaking to you, getting to know some of you. And thank you, especially Sheby, because you've made our day. It wouldn't have been the same without you, would it? So, on behalf of the Tollies, welcome to the tribe.
Thanks for that, Moira. I've definitely learned a few bits about John I didn't know. Now we're going to hear from the lovely new couple. Sheby, she's probably one of my cooler sisters. Even though she used to beat me up when I was younger, which earned her the name Happy Slappy. And then we're going to hear from John as well. A man who needs no introduction.
Hi. So things have already been dictated, so I better speak now, so hang on a minute. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that. I was going to go through the motions of the proposal. That proposal changed my life. It's mad. It's such a crazy feeling to have such an amplified expression, and that's what today is. But let me get back to, sorry, this is what I wrote down. That isn't what I wrote down. Thanks for coming. That's what I'm supposed to say. It is amazing to have all our favourite people all in the same place. Sheby's mates have come from all over the country and the world, and my mates have come mostly from Kingston and Surbiton. And that's great. It's traditional at this point to thank the bridesmaids. I would have had to do that anyway, but I genuinely want to. These people have done loads for the wedding, not just the bridesmaids, man of honour, of course. Done loads for the wedding, loads for Sheby in all the time I've known her. And considering they probably all know the worst parts about me, and there's a few, the fact that we're all mates now is quite a thing. So thanks Asmin, Sakina, Mez, Jack, and Steph particularly. I obviously want to thank my extended best gang too. I couldn't imagine a life without Jane, Oscar or Gary. What you said just then was amazing and moving. Thank you very much. Apologies for all the times I'm an idiot. We work and play together and been through the ups and downs, and we're all still here, and I'm sure we all will be for decades further. Also thanks to my family, especially my mum. I don't think I knew at the time how much of a hero she was as a single mum.
I'm dead.
Am I on? I'm on. I don't think I knew at the time how much of a hero she was as a single mum back in the 80s and 90s. And while we're talking about family, I want to say an apology to my eldest niece. I held her in my arms when she was 3 days old, and I promised she would be the bridesmaid at my wedding. And you just can't compete with all these sisters. Sorry, Naomi. Everyone else who's helped here, thank you very much. There's been so many people along the way. We won't have time to go through all of them, but lots of people stepping in and helping out very last minute in my conventional, non-conventional way. And thank you also to all the banquet staff who are going to be covering me while we're on our honeymoon. That's an amazing thing. I haven't been on a holiday properly in 20 years, and it's one of the frustrations that we've had as a couple, that we haven't had a proper holiday, and it starts now. Life changes now as a husband and wife, and that's one of those things, one of many, I hope. Thank you, of course, to everyone else. I think even thank you to Tamar. I'm not sure what that bed sheet was about, but I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you very much to the bands who are playing in a bit, Tom Spate and Mystery Jets. Very honoured that they're both playing here for us. And thank you to the DJs, which, if you include me and Sheby later on, that's 10 of us. And everyone at Ravens 8, especially Laura, who's been very accommodating, dealing with us and our particular ways. I've learned loads on this wedding and the preparation to it, about how much there is to do in a wedding, and public apology to everyone whose wedding I've been to in the past and not really understood and respected it. I should have replied quicker. I should have told you what my dietary requirements were. And I've learned in recent times there's 4 different types of white colour, loads of different types of cheesecake. There's a time and place to make a joke, and it hasn't been recently. And it costs the same amount of money to hire a mini ramp as to buy it. So we've got a new acquaintance a new acquirement in the back of banquet. I've also learned more how much Sheby is loved. I mean, I've been a fan of her for many years now, but seeing everyone's support and friendship and the extra mileness that everyone here is going to help Sheby out is amazing to watch. I feel very welcomed by the Mia family, although I didn't know I had to make a payment, but I still feel welcome. And as much as I do by friends from the Apple world and the class of 2070, so I feel like you're my friends now. I know my friends have said for years, how did you end up getting with someone? How did you and Sheby end up getting together? And I've always said that, she's just lucky, but that's always been the joke, and I know that it's the other way around, and I am very appreciative. Stop looking at my... Sheby's quite a private person, and I'm quite a worky person, and for various reasons our relationship has, in the main, been away from the public. But the relationship is the realest thing that I've ever known, and then, as I was saying earlier, to be able to sort of share this with everyone here, it's amazing. It's a feeling I haven't had before, and I'm stoked on it. And I'm pretty sure I will still fall asleep on the sofa, but the rest of the vows are true. We said earlier that this is just a public declaration of promises we've already made to each other, and that I'll always be excited to see you and learn from you, and I'll treat you as the most important person in my life. Sheby, you're a beautiful dream, and you're my favourite person in the world. Since becoming engaged, I felt love in a way that I didn't know before, and I can't wait to see what being married feels like. So, this is just one toast to the bride, to Sheby. Thank you so much. I'm utterly stoked. To Sheby. Thank you. Now, over to Sheby.
So I was going to do a speech, but I only had this much paper
I left in the hotel last night. So I'm going to kind of bail, but I do want to say thank you to everyone for coming. It's so nice to see so many faces that I've known for like a year, 2 years, but mostly plus 5 years, plus 10 years. And all my family, all coordinated, looking amazing. And my bridesmaids, obviously, they did such a brilliant job. My man of honour. I could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to, I don't think. What have I got in here? I've got that first date in Isha at Pizza Express, correct. And it was, I can't remember what was hazy. The first meet was definitely John walking out of the booth at the second new slang ever. And yeah, so I didn't know that these questions were coming. I answered them because I thought they were for like a hen party activity. Very subtle, very clever. But yeah, so I met John. Well, I saw him as he walked out the DJ booth at the second new slang, which we thought was a trick because it was held at an R&B club. And there was no one there. What was the second one? No. So just said, oh, what was that? You know, try and get that first kind of contact, and said, oh, what was that song that you were just playing as you come out of the DJ booth? And he's like, I don't know. Great, cool. So that was that, and then so as I was saying, what else have I got on here? The holidays, the travellers, all that kind of stuff. The only other thing that I need to mention is my little brother, who's really shy, and basically it was his 21st birthday at the weekend, or just earlier, a couple of days ago. He basically wanted to go on some lad's 21st Croatia holiday, and instead he had to like adjust his plans and come to his big sister's wedding. So unfortunately I got you a present and a birthday cake. So everyone, 150 people that you don't really know, are going to sing happy birthday. Yay! Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Thank you again. Please let's see you on the dance floor later and singing along to Mystery Jets because it's really, really so nice to have them here with us at front. Okay. It's dessert time, right?
How do I stop this thing from recording?
Is it that